Hello and welcome. Today we are going to see something different and very interesting in our learning of Power BI. Today is the day of visualizations offered by Microsoft in Power BI Desktop. We would try to see all different out of the box visual present on the Power BI Desktop. We'll see what are the preferred uses, why they are used, and how they are used. And we would like to see the properties of those different visuals available to us. Let's have a look at the first visual of the day. The first visual what we are going to look at is the bar and column stack charts. They can be stacked or clustered. When I say stacked, it's one above the other, and clustered is in groups like this. So where are they used? They are used usually to compare or find values at a frequency. It's more like what was an object or an entity doing at one instance versus the other instance. Object at an one instance or the other instance. This is kind of a comparison what we would usually do. The another way of looking at it is you can stack them this line over this line. So there would be only one instance for an object or an entity rather than multiple. So you can group them next to each other or you can have one over the other. This is usually known to identify the counts or the maximum sale or to identify a trend. If you have a data which is based on probably calendar year, January to December, and for your business, you would like to identify what are the peaks and the troughs which you experience throughout the year based on the historical data or the present data. This will help you identify where do you put all the energy during which month, and you can prepare for the lean periods. Similarly, like this, assuming this image was from again January to August, you see the sales, and if this was the sales, you would see the sales have fallen in January and February, that being a lean period, and you have seen the heights in March. So all your energies and efforts of sales maximization and cost reduction should happen during the March month. So these are very effective visual tools for identifying or comparing values. How do you configure this? This is what we'll be able to see very shortly. So bar charts are the standard for looking at specific value across categories. Let's have a look at this. Yes. So if you look at the top bar, these are the bar charts. From the image itself, you identify that the color changes over a single group. That's known as stacking, like any other stacking assembly in an assembly line. Another way of looking at it is having grouping the values rather than stacking one over the other. It can be placed horizontally or it can be positioned vertically. So that in all makes this first line. This entire line is more about bar charts. So let's, for example, take this chart. So it comes back with this value, right? Now, let's have a look at this. What are we seeing? We are seeing axis, legend, value, and tooltips. This is essentially what are the key properties for you to arrive at something. What we'll do is let's go into orders. Let's have a employee ID. No, I want an employee name. How do I get the employee name? Okay, let's have a look. By this employee, I want to identify how much sales did he do. So let me see. We have order IDs. Yeah, for this employee, these are the orders. And by default, you have the aggregations available and the value part of it. that is sum. It just adds the values found in the column order, or it averages it out, or in minimum, maximum. You can have a count distinct. If there are two sales of same quantity, it is counted as one. And this is used to identify what categories were not touched during the sales. Count is the actual count of sales. Standard deviation, variance, median is in the mathematical term means a middle value of all the values available for a person. So usually let's go with the count, and this is stacked like this. I know this is very visually not appealing at the moment. We can make it very visually appealing by using few of the properties. To begin with, let's expand this. Now, this value is still not legible. We'll select the visual. We'll go into its properties or the format option over here, and we'll try to increase, this is the y-axis, so we'll try to increase the font size. So the text size, instead of 8, I will make it 12. And see, you can also change the font type. I want to make it black, so that's available. Then you can also change the x-axis, and you can have a color code, something of this sort. In the bottom, you can increase the size of it to something like this, 12. Do you want solid lines, dashed lines? You can always have that values present. This data which is available over here is of different colors. So you can have certain colors for every value. For example, Margaret, default, we don't want to change the default color. We'll revert to where it was. We'll change Margaret's value to something yellow, Nancy's value to something purple, Laura's value to something in red, just to make this visually appealing. And you have not yet given anything more to this. So this is 156 is the sales which Margaret has done. With this, we can also set a title. So this is the title bar at the top. We can change it to something sales by employees, and we can change the color of the font to dark black. We can have the alignment in the center, raise the font size to 15, make it in any particular format. You can set a background if there is. You can have a border if you want. So you have to first enable it, make it on, and change the border color to your color of preference. So if you see, the border has been applied. Do you want it to happen? And these are the values you would be working on. Is there anything else what we need to do over here? No, this is what we have. Looking at these values, border is there, tooltip is there. Do you want to show the tooltip or you want to change? So a tooltip is something when you hover over a value, what do you want to do? This is the color what you see. So you can change the color into yellow and black. If you go over it, it has changed, but the black is the background, so we need to have white. Perfect. That's where we are. We can change the background of the same icon to something in pink. This becomes pink. Visual header, do you want to have? We've kept it on. That's the default option. So this is one kind of the bar chart. We can rotate it to make it vertical. So these two are covered. If there are more than one kind of categories, this is 100% stacked chart. So if they are priced against something, whatever sales they do, and there is stacking involved, this can be used. This has a very niche preference of usage, but being a beginner or learning over it, you can decide which one works best for you. This is again the horizontal alignment, vertical alignment. This is again grouped stack chart, grouped column chart, grouped row chart. This is the stack chart. So all in all, these are the bar charts available in Power BI for us to use and configure. We move to our next chart, which would be area charts, basic layered or stack chart. So this is basic area chart is based on the line chart with an area between the axis and line filled in. So what it tries to tell you is this is one line chart based on one particular value. This is another chart based on another particular value, and the area below it is colored. So this will clearly tell you what is overlapping and what is not overlapping. So these areas are non-overlapping. That means this behind blue line somewhere was lacking behind and this was leading. Similarly, in this area can be further focused for the blue values as to how to increase it, what were the conditions in Feb to March period. The properties which you need to set is the axis, the legend, the values, and the tooltip. What are the usages of this? Usage is to see and compare the volume trend across the time series. So as you see, the time series is anyway present over here, and for individual series representing visible countable set. So we'll take an example of the second line and individual series of physically countable set. Now let's have a look. So this was one of the chart we just explored, and with all the properties of the first row of the stack charts, right? Now the area chart is just below it. So if I convert it into an area, it basically has same count. So this count together means one thing. So count in itself is one dimension. So all those counts get added together and it shows a downward trend since this order is in descending order of the sales. This is not an ideal scenario where you would like to have this data. What we do is we'll change this chart. We'll convert this first of all into a stack chart. This is like this by selecting. So a good learning over here is you can migrate or choose between different chart forms. So this is one piece of it. Now let's have a look at probably product name. So this is the product name. So you have all the product name. I want to check the reorder level and I would have to check the unit price. So this would give us the trend. This is giving us the trend of where are the gaps coming. Let's take a little complex scenario about units in stock and reorder values. So the first one is the reorder value and unit in stocks. So this is in blue, reorder level is 25, whereas you are here. This will always help us in this scenario, this particular scenario, what we are looking at for a given product. Have we hit the reorder levels or are we always ahead of the reorder levels? This will help the management to take a call as in, is your reorder level high or low for every product based on the other environmental factors. So you'd see reorder level is always lower. That's a trend. Point number one. That's the point when the company will reorder the items before the remaining 25 gets sold out based on their lead time. So this is more like a time to place the order before you get the order, and that is how you place it. So now taking it back towards the management decision, this also shows that reorder level of 25 and a reorder order level of 30 means the items of these items, which are Boston, Nanka, Queso, and these many, take a long time to reach the office than the rest of the others. If we try, if we try to reduce the time from the order to the arrival of the order, then the reorder levels can be adjusted based on the demand per week per day. So this is kind of a demand and supply what it shows. A very important graph which will tell you when your reorder level was high or low. This is a very good idea. This is what it takes. See, reorder this particular product needs some consideration or decision or an action, because reorder level is 5 and you've reached the stock at 4. So this is a critical value which you need to follow up and get those orders before the 4 remaining units get sold out. Such decisions you can arrive with the help of such charts, namely area charts. You can do a little complex mechanism if we can. Let's see. Let's have a look at it. If we have something known as plot area, that's okay. Title is okay. We've seen title, we've seen background, we've seen this. And if we go into interactions, we've already seen in the previous chapters shapes, stroke width, joint type, line, step, show of marker, customize series, right? Title, border, tooltip. Do you want to see? Data colors, we've seen it. Legends is okay. No, we don't have that option. So this is the value what we see in area chart. So these area charts can be visualized in different forms as a uncolored chart. It can be a colored chart. It can be more than one values. It can be a bar chart. This is more like a stacked chart. If you look at it, what does it show? Line and stacked column chart. So the line is missing. Why? Because I have not entered the column. So if I put a unit over here, probably unit price, it's not picking up. If I say product ID, it's not picking up. If I say units on order, it's not picking up. What would it pick up? Units will not be picked up. Something else based on these products. If there is, for example, city, no, it can't show city because it's not showing the trend. You can probably move those stocks over here or here. This kind of content can be placed in a particular value. Line value is missing. Let's make one as a line and one as a column. So this is another representation of the same area chart, wherein the areas are converted into bar and line rather than all the values being area chart. So a combination of line and bar chart or an area chart or one over the other if you want. So the difference between this area chart and stacked area chart is the stack would always start from where the reorder level ends. There is no overlap. So things are getting stacked up based on the values available. Whereas area chart has an overlap. So this is something which we have to understand while working with stacked. Stacked means one over the other. And area is overlapping. Do you want both as lines? You have more like a bar chart, and you have ribbon chart. So this we'll have a look in some while. Overall, this is what you get to see in the area charts. Based on your understanding of the best representation of the chart, you can go ahead and experiment with it. Let's have a look at the next visual what we are going to see over here. Next visual is cards. It can be a single card or a multi-card. So if it can have a single value or multiple value, right? Where are they used? Cards are used to show a particular aggregated value. So you want to have a sum of stores, total revenue, total target, count of sales, number of employees, absent, present. Such numeric singular values can be found. What do you configure these stores, these cards as? These cards are configured using the property known as field. Let's have a look at how cards are used in the system. Yes, there we are. Now, keep this aside for a moment. Let's add a visual which is card. So this is card, this is multi-row card. So these are the two visuals what we are talking about right now. So if you click on it, it gives you a value. And this also gives you a value. The difference between here is if you click multi-row cards, it has fields which can be added one below the other. And this has one field, right? Now, let's say if I add a city card, this is the first city, right? It can tell you the count. How many cities do you have? You have these many cities, out of which how many are unique? So it will tell you 531 cities are uniquely identified in the column city. What if you want to have these two both unique as well as total rows available in this city space? So we'll change this card type to multi-row. It shows one value and I again pull that same value. This is interesting to understand that you can use a column more than once. And you can say you want to see the count. So out of these count, this is what you see. This can be further beautified by keeping it small, point number one. Then you go ahead, change that label colors if you have to. You can change the card title if you have to. There is a title here, background here. You can disable the data labels. So, do you want to see the categories or do you don't want to see the categories? So this is how you can distinguish between them. Data label. So what does it have? What is the name of that column? Display category labels. Please remember this is used to hide the column names which are available appearing by default. And if you want to give your own label, you can do so. You can have a title. You can have title saying covered versus total, something like this, right? And if I have to tell you, let's find a ratio of this value. So what I'll do is I will go into orders. I will write a new measure because I'm finding the count, right? So if I do a new measure, what I'll say percentage, just have a look. Let's go into a little bit detail of this card option, how you can make use of it in an effective manner. Percentage coverage, if I call it, and I say, let's write the column name city, right? It is, no, it's still not picking up. And okay, let's say sum of city, probably from which column? Orders 2, right? Divided by sum, all summarize, request the totals, each row of the table. Let's say Sum of the city employee cities, for example. A vague number, but let's call it. And then we pull that value over here. If I have to tell you that I want to see the coverage, and there is some error. So this is not evaluating to something what we need. So such formulas can be used as well. This is something what we need to take care. If there are certain other probably values, let's have a look like this quantity. And let's move the coverage out of it. It shows you the quantity as well. And similarly, singular value, multiple value. So this is how it takes the value. If you put this over here, you see it is not allowing multiple columns to get added over here. So this is the singular card option. And if you have more values to be shown, you can keep adding those values. There are no issues in it, such as this. Only thing is, while developing it, technically this is too simple to put those datas in it. However, you need to take care what would the decision maker calculate in his mind as a singular number based on your business scenario and try to deliver that number in this single piece of card. That's the crux of this card visual. Next is the combo chart. Combo chart is a combination of line and clustered chart. So you would very well see in this example that there's a clustered column chart and a line. So it is covering two dimensions in two different ways. So there would be a sales line, there can be another target line which might be ahead from the sales. This is one part of it. So this can be the count versus the total count, what you can compare with. What are these charts? Technically, a combo chart combines the column chart and a line chart. Choose from the line and the stack column and line and the clustered column. So this is what everything is about. What are the properties you need to configure to get this? So you need to configure a shared axis. Shared axis meaning if the period is June to July, then the corresponding line data as well as the column bar data should be present for these three values. So this is the shared axis. Column series, column values and line values. Line values is the line value over here. Column values is the stack chart over here. Column series is what data you want to see. That is what the series is all about. When do you use this? When you have a line chart and a column chart with the same x-axis. Similarly, over here, the line has something known as June, April, and July. Similarly, column dimension is also having same values. This is one starting point. To compare multiple measures with different value range. So this is the multiple measures. To illustrate correlate between the two measures in one visualization. So when we say measures, it means two formulas. To check whether one measure meets the target defined by the other measure. Like I said, this can be a target, these can be the values. To conserve the canvas space. So since we are on a very limited screen space and we are forced to have more information in a displayed in a very limited space and that too in a very appealing fashion, this is a chart which can help you to cover two dimensions in a very small space. Let's have a look. So these are the charts which we already seen. Line plus clustered and line stack. This is what is all about. These two especially are the charts what we are talking about. This is the probably the units, and let's have a price as a column series, probably line series, sorry. And this is the line. For these products, which is a common axis for both the quantity as well as the price column, you have two of these scales. Please remember, when you use a dual chart, you have two scales on the y-axis and a single scale on the x-axis. In this case, these scales can further be raised. Let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at these value decimals. If I say I want to have 1,000 decimal, so this changes, right? What if I make it billion? So this changes again. Okay, I make it auto back to what it was. In the secondary line, you can have another scale, and that scale you can show it as, let's have one more piece over here. See this log. When you say log, it is 10, 100,000, 10,000. That logarithmic increments are shown over here. Or you can have a linear. You can also specify the start to be 2k, right? So it starts from 2. If you want to say 2, you can have only the values which are starting from 2. If you want an end, probably let's remove this and see what are the maximum and the minimum available. So if you want end at 1k, so you can have something known as, and you will see that scale has gone out. So this end option will effectively scale your line. If you want the line to appear at one particular value or inflate it, you can do that. And the best is the as is scale, right? You can show your units as well. Data colors are part of it. Shapes are fine. Plot area. What if you don't want transparency? You can make that thing as transparent or no. So this basically, the visual background and the screen background is the question about the plot area. Title you already know appears at the top. Borders you already have specified. Tooltip, if any, you can always say if there is over here. We've seen this. Visual header is by default kept on, and rest of thing is the same. Next, we'll have a look at a circular donut or a pie chart. This specific example what I've taken, which also applies to pie chart, is a donut chart. Pie chart has a solid in center, whereas donut has the background color in center. It is transparent. So a tire shaped or a donut shaped chart is known as a donut chart. Similar to pie chart, they show the relationship of parts to whole. This is one point which you need to remember. What does it take? It takes the properties such as legend, the details, the value, and the tooltip. And where do we use this? The sum of the donut chart value must add up to the 100%, not the 100 value. Please remember this. Too many categories make it difficult to read. So some countable categories, cities such as or states can be used, right? Donut chart are best used to compare a particular section to the whole rather than comparing individual sections to each other. Another important point to remember. Till now, what we were doing is we were comparing two values in the same domain, be it sales versus target, be it invoice count of an employees, but compared to another employee. So it was always employee to employee, product to product comparison based on another factor. What if you want to see a part to a whole relationship to check the volume? What if we want to see how much percentage revenue a product is bringing in the organization compared to the total revenue? In that case, you would ideally would like to see part for a whole relationship, which in turn, as a designer of Power BI, you would think about a donut or a pie chart. Let's have a look. So what I've done is, based on the employees, I have created a donut. I would like to tell you that this is the disadvantage of many items if you are trying to find out in part for a whole relationship. So that's when you might want to tweak. So this is not an ideal scenario to visualize part for a whole relationship. Let's go with another visual. Let's revert this first of all and bring the earlier chart back. Now let's create a donut chart. Let's have a donut chart of about probably, I don't want orders. Let's have a look at products. Let's have a product name. This is the value. This is showing all the products. We would like to have details of product and unit price, probably in this fashion. Since the product list is huge, we are left with very few things. What about region? What if we bring in region over here? And then region wise, what if we break down part for a whole relationship? So this is probably something very close to we'd like to see as a donut chart. This can very interchangeably used for a pie chart. So a pie is a complete solid circle. You remove the central piece and it becomes a donut. All the values remain the same. Now, as a legend by default, it is showing these two values. If you want something more on top of it, you can have probably product name, but it would show you the count. So we don't have that value. So we cannot have that. So there are certain things system would not allow you to do. So those things is what we need to take care. So units on order, let's see. No, it can't be added. But units in stock, what about this? It can be added. So these many units are overall available of stock across all the products. Still, it is not bifurcated. That means the relationship, since the data is repetitive of this, that means unit in stock has no relationship to the region. So we cannot use this again. So if I have to go back and see what is the region table looking like, let's see it. Let's expand it. Let's scroll to the top and let's see, region table is connected to the people. So if I have a customer name over there, then let's see what happens. So region table is connected to people. So if I go into the people 2 table, then I can have this detail as my legend probably. Yes. See, and if I make it, since it has so many customers, it is breaking that value down. If I move it to tooltips, it will give me the count. It is giving the first or the last. I can have a count of customers in the region. This region has 3, this has 36, this is more interesting now. So this is where when you design a donut or a pie chart, is the question you will ask yourself, what do you want to keep it in tooltips? How do you want to make your donut like? And on what basis? So our basis over here is region. What are we showing is the unit price as its value. So for every region, this donut is bifurcated on unit price. So if you look at it, unit price is uniformly distributed. So if I remove this and I move it over here, right? And I keep this. So now you have a good chance of understanding that there are 686 customers coming from the west and very minuscule percent coming from the other region. So your focus of your effort should be lying in the west region. Any additional column data you would like to see, you can keep it in tooltips. This is the legend. If you have something else related to it, you can show it in legend. Overall, this is what the donut and pie chart with what it looks like. The next what we see is a filter chart of the funnel chart. What does funnel chart do? Funnels help us visualize a process that has stages and item flow sequentially from one stage to another. Use a funnel when there is a sequential flow between the stages such as sales process, leads, ends, purchase fulfillment. So, if you look at it, let me show this to you that a product went from lead to procure to qualified prospect to committed and then part of the transaction. So from lead to transaction, all the different stages are covered in this, wherein you get a leads worth 50K. Currently prospects are 30K, qualified at 20K, final out of 50K, only 55K got converted. This gives you an idea as in where the funnel is going. This is ideally a sales funnel. These are the different stages. So whenever you have a data in which a particular column has multiple stages, it can be moving in a sequential order internally, and you know that order as is it sold, is it pre-sales, is it order fulfillment, is it return. So that would be a typical product life cycle wherein it would be from procurement, then sales, pre-sales, then sales, then order fulfillment, and probably returns. Together will give you a complete picture of every product. In this scenario, you can use the funnel chart. Unfortunately, today I do not have that kind of data with me, but please remember, when something inherently moves in a sequential assembly line fashion, you can effectively make a use of funnel charts. What are the properties you need to give? There is a property known as group. So basically you can group. The group concept of BI can be used over here. Value and tooltips. So after the group, what value are you projecting? So for every group, there would be same value. This is the same price what we are going through for this sequential process. And tooltips is any additional information. Remember, when the data is sequential and moves through at least 4 stages is when you should ideally use funnel chart. So this in itself makes it a very rarely used chart. Nonetheless, it is equally important as the other visualization, but however, you would have to take care of these things before using the funnel chart. When the number of items in the first stage is expected to be greater than the final stage, as we see, there are many leads compared to the conversion. That also means it's more towards a higher volume to a lower volume game. To calculate potential revenue, sales and deals, etc. by stages. So this will help you identify at what stage and what volume is lying so that you can effectively move your workforce or your decision towards those lagging pieces. To calculate track conversion and retention rates. So in this typical chart, I showed you lead to transaction. So lead to transaction ratio can be compared as a separate case, but this will help you track it visually. To reveal the bottlenecks in the linear process, ideally the funnel should be a vertical V shape. If something is over large or bulkier than the row above, that means there is a bottleneck in the process. This is inherent understanding of this chart. To track a shopping cart workflow, this is an example. Shopping cart workflow has many options such as how many people are on the web page, how many people have a value in the cart, how many people are adding more values, how many people have completed the transaction, how many people did not complete the transaction. Something of that sort can be taken care with this funnel. To track the progress and success of click-through advertising, Like this is effectively used in Google Ads configuration manager. Can be pinned from report and from Q&A. So this can be pinned from a report to and from Q&A onto the dashboard. It can be sorted, supports multiple funnels, can be highlighted and cross-filtered by other visualization. This is true for almost most of the visualizations. Can be used to highlight and cross-filter other visualization. What this means is if you select one particular item, that values corresponding item can be shown in rest of the charts on the screen. So for this, there is no visualization as such, but we'll try to attempt one. So there we are. Now, what if I tell you, let's take a new visualization. Let's take this funnel chart and let's minimize a bit and try to see what is the best option which we can use based on dates. Let's make it something known as date. So if I have a date range by any chance, I do not have a date range over here. So let's take care about employees. And if I say, let's say title, it has this title, and let's say first name, if that is the value. And if I make it a funnel, it is not accepting because it's not correctly mentioned. If I have to make a funnel of something, let's take invoices, let's take customer name, let's take discount probably. But since it is different data, it can't be shown. The idea is I do not have that master data over here. So we'll refrain from getting into that discussion right now. A very important chart which you would usually use, or chart I mean to say visualization, is KPI. KPI is key performance indicator. This is always a singular value derived by dividing one value over the other value. So it is used to measure the progress, as in how far have we reached, and to measure the distance to the goal, that are we ahead of the schedule or behind the schedule? Are we profitable or are we not profitable? Are we under or are we over? So this comparison and a singular value is shown over here. So usually it is positive or negative, and it is shown by a graphical arrow up or down based on the data, and it shows how much positive or negative we are, or ahead or behind, basis the color and the arrow marking and the positive and the negative signs, mathematical signs. What does it have? It usually has an indicator. It has a trend axis and a target goal. So trend over target will give you an idea as to are you doing good or not. What is a typical usage of a KPI chart? KPI visual usually is used to help you evaluate the current value and the status of a metric against a defined target. So it is more about actual versus target and a percentage or a value or numeric value over it. A KPI visualization requires a base measure that evaluates to a value, and a target measure or a value, and a threshold goal. So it's more like it's something over something and what is the ideal thing. So this in all makes a KPI. Let's have a look. How does a KPI chart look like? Let's see. What if I do KPI chart by clicking, let's convert this into a KPI chart, right? KPIs are this chart. This is point number one. It is used by count of sales probably. So let's go into orders table, orders to table, because that is being mapped. Let's take the revenue from that. And for example, let's take count of unit, probably rate. right? Indicator can be quantity. So this is what the quantity is. So what it is showing over here is out of 9.89, we are on target. Obviously, the revenue would always be higher than the rate. That is the reason it is showing that we are achieving the goal by 98%. This won't be the ideal scenario. The ideal scenario would be revenue versus the target value, which you compare based on quantity. This is something we need to take care while designing it. But what I want to show you is this is a trend, how the products have done in the background. This is a numeric singular value, what you would see, and this is the goal, what you achieved. So KPI in its way is very helpful management MIS number, which helps the key guys in your top leadership take calls looking at this number. Let's have a look at something else. Let's have a look at the new visualization, which is matrix visualization. Matrix visualization is usually used to show more than one dimensions in a tabular fashion. If you look at this example, you have an ear which is represented over here that has a dimension known as quarter, which is shown over here, and it has another value. Within that quarter is a revenue and YTD. So there is a revenue dimension and the YTD revenue dimension, as well as a quarter dimension and a usual running series of the numerics. So this in all has two dimensions running in this chart. Similarly, we can have more dimensions, like I'll show it to you. What does it usually have? It is built of rows and columns and a value. What is a typical usage of this matrix visualization? Matrix are used to show either a stepped data with grouping. It is also used to show more than one dimensions. Additionally, it has aggregate properties which can be made use of. Let's have a look. If we go here and I convert this into a matrix. So for this revenue, this is the rate. So rather than product name, if I give a rows of product name, so for every product name, and I just would like to pull it, this is the rate. And now sometimes you come across such problems. What you would do is you go into format and you would say bring forward, bring to front. So then it becomes the front element. So the dimensioning, the depth can be set by using the format. This is just for your information. Let's increase the size because I want to use this for a while. Let's have a look at this. And this is what the product name is, what is the rate, what is the quantity which is being sold. So this is what it all arrives at. If you have something known as category and subcategory is there, what if I want to categorize it based on this, right? I want to categorize this data. And I want to give a subcategory to it. Quantity, rate. See, this is the category what I have shown. Let's do one thing. Let's move this chart to a new page. Copy visual, move it, paste visual, right click, Control V. There we are. Now let's expand this and you would see the categorization on top of it. So these values are further dimensioned in this fashion. What if I want to add a subcategory as well? What will happen? If there are subcategories, it will move in that fashion. These are the subcategories present over there. And why is that the subcategory is not getting displayed? The reason is this. If you drill down, you are enabling the drill down, and if you drill down further, you will see the subcategories. If you drill up, you would see the categories. What if you want to see categories and subcategories? You will click on this arrow. So it shows the categories as well as subcategories. So this important piece of information is something new which you've not heard in our learning till now, is the drill down option, the drill up option, and single level drill down, level by level, or all level drill down. So this is something which is very helpful. Apart from this, one more interesting point over here is, what if you are working on such piece of information? How do you get the data? You click on show data and it shows you the data in tabular fashion. What if you want to export the data? You can export the summary data into a CSV or another type of file. So overall, this is how you would look into a matrix kind of a data, and this matrix data would take us to another piece of information which is a tabular data in a while. Next very important visual is the map visual, which is given by Microsoft. Map visual helps you to associate both categorical and quantitative information with spatial location. Something like this on the top right. You would see around bubbles based on your volume. The size of the bubble would increase or decrease, and basis that you have a geographical pinpoint based on the volume. So it helps us relate the key KPI values to the geographies. What do you need to do to get this map visual configured into your Power BI dashboard? You would have to specify your location, legend, latitude, longitude, and size. Let's have a look how to make use of it. So we have one map visual available over here. What have we configured? We've configured customer city, customer country in the order of descending larger to smaller. So country, post that there is a city, and we've configured the size, that is a quantity, from the order details table. How did I put this data? Looking at the relationship which exists from the customers, there is an ordered table and there is an order detail table. So I definitely know for every customer there should be some order which is taken place and which is available for me. With that relationship in mind, I can definitely look at the volume of the orders which is getting placed from every location. This helps you set up this question of identifying how would my sales distribution channel be like, how heavy or how light it should be, can be answered by looking at such visual. Looking at this visual by configuring country and city with respect to the quantity, I come to know that North America has the largest chunk of my sales, followed by Europe, and there are no sales in Asia Pacific region, Australia, Africa, with little bit sales in South America. So my geographic footprint is lying between Americas and Europe. Now, further, if I want to know within America, where do I have the maximum sales to increase my local distribution, I would have to enable my drill down. So I enable the drill down, it shows in black arrow, and I say take me one level down wherever needed. So if I click on it, it took me United States, and I see the bigger circle is somewhere above Nevada, and very few or similar size circle are California, Illinois, Montana, and Oregon, etc. So basis this, you would like to have your distribution channel as close to Nevada compared to the others, and with that you can have a central hub and spoke model set up for this particular example. So this geographical information is available to you, and the bubbles which are showing is the size or the number. So you see the quantity of sales is 4958 compared to 345 over here and 181 in California. So this is how we can configure the maps and we can go about using them. So this information will help you in your different business scenarios. Having said that, you would have to identify if you are a geospatial player, then only I would request you to go for such visuals. Moving on, last few charts, I would like to have a very theoretical aspect of it. Looking at the rest of the charts, these charts will help you identify more or less what we've done till now. One of the other charts present on the screen is on the Power BI desktop is the line chart. Line chart is basically a series value evaluation over a dimension. It usually is time, but need not be. Second is pie chart. Like we saw the donut chart, pie chart is same as the donut chart, only the shape and the visualization concept differs. Slicers interchangeably are also known as filters. We have seen how the slicers work by filtering the other slicers, and we can decide onto which is the master slicer, like we saw in the earlier learning sessions. So slicers along with the other visualization on the screen will help you filter the data and display it in much meaningful way. Tabular thing is one thing what I would like to show you over here. So tabular data, if we go back over here, we see this screen can be converted into tabular format. Not here. Okay, I convert this visual into a tabular visual and it would only give me row, column and subcategory in this line. So if you want to see this data over a category or a subcategory, that cannot be done in tabular format. It is a singular dimension wherein the rate can be viewed in against a product only, and the other attributes get repeated over time. If you want to pivot the usual way in Excel, you would probably use this as a pivot table and pivot it over category or subcategory. In this scenario, you might have to move from table to matrix. In this case, this is the key difference between them. Moving on, the other charts what we saw was the pie chart. Pie chart can is interchangeably used with the donut chart like this. This is one scenario. Now, if I have to move this entire piece into a line chart, it is very simple for me to move it into a line chart. It can have more than one values over a common dimension. So that is the line chart for you, pie chart for you, and the third one would be the tabular chart for you. Coming back to where we are. Tree maps. Tree maps are the chart of colored rectangles with size representing the value. They can be hierarchical, the rectangles nested within the main rectangles. Let's have a look and experiment how does this tree maps work. So this chart let's convert this into tree maps if we have one. So this filled map and the other map, this can be interchangeably used as well. If I select this and I move it to this, it shows me nothing. Okay, now in this scenario, we do not have tree maps present. Scattered chart, waterfall charts, tree map is not available. So let's go back. Tree maps are the charts of color rectangle. Basically, it would show all the values in the rectangular fashion. We don't have tree maps, unfortunately, in this. Waterfall. Waterfall chart shows a running total as the values are added or subtracted. This can probably be used with respect to the sales, and it would show an incremental value. So let's take a new visual and let's go into the orders table and let's try to add a waterfall chart. In that waterfall chart, if I have a value known as, probably revenue is not there, let's have unit quantity over product. So if I go into products table and I have a product name, what is the breakdown of the quantity? It's not coming over here, and if I try to move it over here, it doesn't come over. So waterfall chart usually would be used to show a running total. I want a quantity value over here. That's fine. And I want a product name. However, these are not related. If I say there are cost count of quantity per product is 77. If I say reorder level, no, I'm not finding the relationship over here. Let's see something of employees and let's see the order ID. If I have to tell you, if I have to make a waterfall increase, decrease, or total, order ID and breakdown by quantity, no, it doesn't come over here. I want a quantity over here. Let's see, is it giving me something? No. If I move it to quantity, yes, this is what I was looking out for. So if you look at it, the quantity of every product is sold. So starting from this product consuming this value, it gets added over a period of time. Because it's more about sales, sales can never differ. The count will keep on increasing 1, 2, 3, 4 over a range of time. In this scenario, you can have a something known as waterfall, which would look something like this. If you have a measure which increases and decreases over a range of time or a range of dimension, then that can be effectively shown in this graphical format of up and down. That's where the waterfall model come. Again, this is a very specific use. Please keep in mind you should use waterfall model only when there is a value which is increasing as well as decreasing over a particular dimension and you want to track that increase and decrease. Let's go back. Ribbon charts. Ribbon charts show which data category has the highest rank and what is the change in it. The highest rank is shown at the top, lowest one is shown at the bottom. So if I have to show you this as a ribbon chart, do I have the ribbon chart over here by any chance? No, I do not have. Yes, we don't have that. So ribbon chart is more towards the categorization of ranking, basically, of your categories. So which category is rank 1, which category is rank 2 based on your sales or the revenue is when you'll use your ribbon chart. Scatter and bubble charts display the relationship between two or more measures. Let's have a look. If these are the measures and if I put it into a category, what happens? This is how it looks like. So for this person, his reorder level is so and so. For this product, the unit sold is this, and it's a huge volume. Unit price is this, right? The size is based on the price. So larger the price, the larger the circle. Smaller the price, the smaller the circle. So this product is somewhere it is important, which is lying at reorder level of 15, and the range of sales is between 0 to 50. So if you look at it, it is somewhere over here. These scatter charts will help you identify the outliers and bring them into mainstream focus. So this is a different way of visualizing your data. And with this, we would like to end the session for visualizations from Microsoft. In our next session, we would definitely see some external visualization, and towards the end of our session of this entire Power BI learning course, I would be sharing you some shortcut tips as in which charts to be used in which scenario. With this, I end this today's session. Thank you so much for listening.